30 Odd Minutes is sponsored in part by Digital Dowsing. Who are you powered by?
For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard. We will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30 Odd Minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
Hey! Greetings from the 4th Annual Michigan ParaCon in the beautiful Quaratino Casino in Sault Ste, Michigan. How are you guys? All right. My name is Jeff Belanger, and I'm live in the mothership high above you right now. And down there is our distinguished panel. Good to have you folks with us. Thank you all. Appreciate it. I get the sense this is kind of impersonal. Shall I beam down? Beam me down, Eric.
Hey! Thank you guys for joining us today. 30 Odd Minutes live from the 4th Annual Sault Ste. Michigan Paranormal Conference. Everybody feeling good? All right, we've got a we've got a panel up here. And it's good to have you guys. Some of you, your very first appearance. Let's start at the end. Loren Coleman, cryptozoologist, author extraordinaire. Moving down the line, Christopher Quaratino, also known Christopher Lutz, the Amityville Kid, the kid who grew up in the Amityville. From Darkness Radio, Paranormal Challenge, and now Ghost Adventures, please welcome Dave Schrader. Host of Realm of the Weird, author, columnist, lecturer, your friend and mine, John E.L. Tenney. And the Reverend, psychic, author, spiritualist minister, Tim Shaw. All right, guys, we are in the Upper Peninsula, Yoopers, right? We're kind of on a quest. Now, last year this quest started and we found some evidence. I want to play a clip from our own Dr. Drek, who's still up on the ship, hovering above. It's cloaked. You're not going to see it if you go outside. Last year, we captured some initial evidence of Yoopers. Take a look.
Greetings, oddballs. Dr. Drek here, and I'm in search of the legendary creature, a Yooper. And I finally have positive proof of their existence in two different ways. The first bit of evidence is an audio recording I made out in the woods last night. Listen closely and you'll hear the sounds of Yoopers.
What's happening, eh? Oh, I'm going store, eh?
Now, let's replay that with the translation.
What's happening, eh? Oh, I'm going store, eh?
How's that for evidence? And if that's not enough, I was out there the other day with my old Super 8 movie camera, and I caught a Yooper right in my lens. Get a look at this. Look at that, the distinctive walk, the carriage, even took a look at me. Now, if that isn't conclusive evidence of the existence of Yoopers, I don't know what is. But I'll tell you one thing, it's all going to be in my new book, and I hope that you'll buy it when it comes out. It's called Real Freakin' Mysterious, eh? And I'm hoping to have a foreword written in it by Loren Coleman. You know, a foreword or a backword or a sideword or a crossword, something. Anyway, and remember, keep looking for Yoopers.
All right, thank you, Dr. Drek. We're going to check back in with you. Good to have you. Loren, I want to start with you, cryptozoologist. Have you ever encountered a Yooper?
I don't even think I have this weekend.
Okay.
I've heard there's Yoopers.
See,
Yoopers are
That's usually after we go to the bar, Lauren.
Then also, I've heard there are trolls in the building too.
trolls.
Trolls. You know what trolls are?
Go ahead.
People on the other side of the bridge.
From
But
Canada
they
land.
don't want to get run into by the fudgies.
But this side. Oh, okay. Lower, oh, you mean
Other side is the
the
wrong
hand. People from the hand. Okay. When you're from Michigan and not the UP, when you say where you live, you just point to the hand.
That's right. Well, that's the Flatlanders, though.
Right.
Right.
And we're in the Upper Peninsula.
And then the
And where I go,
Oh, right, from Detroit.
I am a Flatlander.
So where do you live?
I am down kind of
Yeah.
here. So
Yeah.
it depends on how wide I move my mouse in many different miles by simply enlarging the size of my hand.
So you go to the thumb and you make a left.
Thumb and then down.
Down, okay, got it, all right. It's very complicated. Chris, I know you live in Arizona now, so this is all new landscape for you.
We don't have Yoopers out there.
No, you don't. Thank goodness. And upstate New York, represented here with Tim Shaw. Tim, Yoopers, ever?
The only time I saw a Yooper was earlier in the day. I was following Dave Schrader into the John, and I slipped on something. I think he's a Yooper.
That was a pooper.
Oh, I get confused. I'm sorry.
All right. All right, I want to check back in. Dr. Dreck's up in our ship above us, and he's got his sensors running. Dr. Dreck, are you there? Can you hear me? You there?
Yes, I am here. I may not be all there, but I'm here.
Okay, all right. Any Yoopers nearby?
Well, as it so happens, our scanners reveal that you're surrounded by them. They're all over the Yupin place. So, what we're going to do is just lock in on one.
All right, so we're going to check back in with Dr. Dreck a little later. He's going to scan for Yoopers. Maybe we're going to prove it during this 30 minutes that they exist, which is amazing. And let's talk about proof in the paranormal. Where does the burden lie when you're talking about proof in the paranormal? Dave, let's start with you. Okay, good answer.
Well, obviously, we all want to believe. Everybody's got this ardent desire to prove and believe and cling to things. And unfortunately, there's a lack of one really important tool in the paranormal field for a lot of the investigators out there, and it's common sense. And I don't mean that rudely, but a lot of people will let crazy things influence them. I had a woman who sent me a photograph, and she said, "Look at this. This is an old mining town in Pennsylvania. It's closed down since the 1980s. There was nobody. This is a dead town." She goes, "Look in the door of the store." And I look, and there's obviously something there. But I said, "Well, I've looked over the picture, but I don't see any ghosts." She said, how can you miss it? It's right there in the doorway." So I went on eBay, and I typed in James Dean cardboard cutout Coca-Cola. And if you guys remember in the 80s, they took Marilyn, Elvis, and James Dean, and they photoshopped a Coke can in their hands. So I sent a picture of that to her. I said, "I think what you're seeing is this." And she wrote back, and she goes, "Well, I can see how you think that's what you're looking at." So I took her picture and I put it next to the actual picture, and I circled his hairline and his white shirt and his red jacket and a Coke can in his hand. And her answer came back to me. She said, "I'm just going to send this to somebody who believes in the paranormal and isn't going to be so cynical about everything." So, of course, being a representative of the field, I always want to make sure that I've crossed all my T's and dotted all my I's. So I looked at it and I sent back and I said, "You know what? There is a good chance this store is haunted by a cardboard cutout of James Dean." But it falls on us, I believe, as the investigator, to really look at what you've got. What are you representing, and what do you want to deliver as proof? If you look at it and know that if you were looking at it from anybody else, you'd have 100 questions, then I don't think it's ready to put that piece of evidence out there.
John, what about you? I know you look at all kinds of, you're not just one thing, you're looking across the board. To you, is there any evidence that becomes enough for proof?
I think the big difficulty we all have in this field is that we're dealing with something that's personal. Like, for a lot of people, it's about our belief systems, it's about our personal experiences, and then how do you prove a personal experience to someone? I mean, I can tell you I love someone in the same way, but there's no way I can prove that to you.
You can prove it. There it is.
The drinks have not started yet. There'll be a lot more love after that. But I mean, it really does. The hardest part for me is, I tell people all the time during my lectures, like, people will ask me, when did I start believing in ghosts? I don't believe in ghosts. I mean, people take issue with that. But I'm trying to be as... Exactly.
They believe in you, John.
But I mean, I'm trying to be as objective as possible, and we all know about confirmation bias and reaffirming our own belief systems, and the hardest thing that we can do is look objectively and look beyond our own belief system and challenge ourselves. And once you really do that, then you can start to show other people. But if you take a picture and you believe 100% it's a ghost to the moment that you take it, for you it's a ghost, and you're never going to think any differently. But that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to prove it to ourselves. For a lot of us, we don't need to. People say, if I don't believe something, like when they argue, I don't believe in ghosts, they say, well, then why are you still researching it? And I question people back, and I say, if you already believe 100%, why are you still researching it? You already have the answer. You already know it's real. You can stop. I don't know. I'm continuing my quest.
Now, Christopher, proof is often in the eye of the beholder. Go through the experience. That's proof for you. As a kid, the Amityville house, this is a story, and I can't wait for people to hear you talk tomorrow because there's so much to say. We're going to barely touch it here. You went through an experience that has been turned into books, movies, blown out of proportion, changed, so many times. What's it like when you're hearing, today about, what's it like looking back on those 28 days in Amityville that have come to where they are today, where this is just this iconic haunt based on movies and books? What was proof for you, in that house?
Well, you speak about the 28 days like that was the end of it. Amityville was just the beginning. And I'm not just talking about the way that the story propagated and changed and progressed into a thing that it really wasn't. There's a very different side to this story that never got told. And that's something I have a hard time vocalizing it, and I'm hesitant to speak it, but I believe it's time that it gets told, and so that's why I'm here and moving forward with it. But some people say that these type of things are just in the eyes of the beholder, and that a lot of it didn't happen. It's all in your imagination, or that you may have been told a thing as a child, and that might be the experience that those kids are going through. There's still more to hear, and when you can back that up in a spiritual context, it begins to make more sense. And,
so it's always progressing for you. You're always, you had things happen to you, but you continue that research for yourself, so you're still not even satisfied with the answers you have.
Well, I am, and that was why I stopped researching. And then I just needed to take a break and walk away from it. It got that dark.
No, it's obviously affected you, and I'm so glad you're here speaking about it, because we can watch the movies, but when you finally get to hear from someone who was there, it's a game changer for people, so I'm excited for the audience to hear you speak. One funny story, though, involving Christopher. Yesterday, we got on the plane in Detroit, and I didn't know Christopher was going to be on my plane, and Joe Chin was in the very last seat, and I was right in front of him, and Christopher comes in, I'm like, hey, good to see you, and he sits down next to Joe, and I start talking, and Joe Chin hadn't met Christopher, didn't know who he was, and so I start talking, how you doing, how things been, catching up with him over the seat, and Joe is finally starting to figure out from things like Amityville House, documentary, like who he's sitting next to, and he said, so, I'm sorry, oh, you're Christopher, nice to meet you. I said, this is the Amityville kid, and he went, wow, and I said, yeah, Joe, where'd you grow up? And he said, well, my house was haunted in Rhode Island, where I grew up, and I went, go ahead, Joe, tell Christopher about your haunted house. He just hangs his head.
Sometimes my keys would go missing.
We were sitting in row 13 when he told me that story.
There was a cold spot, never mind. Forget it. So, yeah, no, it's funny. All right, Loren, evidence, cryptozoology, fascinating field, of course, looking for these animals of mystery, but evidence turns up. You sent a photo of a footprint. Let's take a look. There it is.
Sure. First of all, I think that one of the most important things is witnesses, participants are there, are important, and then they come to us, all of us, with evidence. And they want us to look at this evidence. My interest is first and foremost to look at the person that's bringing the evidence, because that's the critical piece of evidence. And I think all of you out there, for instance, look at the people that are in front of you right now. Use observation. Who among us here is the one that's interested in light and life? Who's the only one not wearing dark clothes and jeans? I mean, look at this, look at this. That's why I always feel really different as a cryptozoologist at these haunted conferences and stuff.
You just didn't get the memo.
But this is actually an Ojibwa reservation over in Minnesota, the Red Lake Reservation. This is a footprint. There was a series of Bigfoot footprints found there in 2005, and as you may all remember, it was only a few months later that the first major school shooting in an Indian reservation school occurred. So there was some kind of linkage there in a lot of people's mind to a banshee kind of incident, and it's kind of spooky. One thing that I've noticed about this print, it actually has what we call the mushrooming effect. If you go to the beach and your feet are, don't have any shoes or anything on it, and you go down into the sand and you get that sucking motion that you get when you come up, if you do plaster casts of those and turn the footprint sideways, the toe comes out as a mushroom. Those are very hard to fake. Police officers know that all over the country. These footprints did not seem to be a fake and kind of are interesting because there's actually Bigfoot seen near this casino all the time.
Yeah, amazing. No, it's stuff like this comes up. I love reading your blog and things like that because Loren's always got his finger on the pulse. And these are the head scratchers. These are the evidence that turns up, the stories that turn up where you say, man, there's something to all this. It's not just a story. And Reverend Tim Shaw, I want to ask you about the psychic aspect of things, because what you're asking is for people to take your word, right? That the visions, the messages you're getting are coming from something beyond you. And what's that like when you're delivering a message? What do you see? What do you experience when something's coming through? What's it like in your head? Don't tell us everything because it's a family show.
Exactly.
But yeah.
First off, I don't ever expect anybody to take as gospel anything that comes through. First off, you have to understand that I'm going to bring through validations, through identifiers, through initials, names. I'm going to try to go and bring through personality quirks, traits, things that they said, so that it goes and rings true for you. I never want you to ever go and take anything a psychic says as gospel. Second thing is anything I say to you, you can walk out of this room, instead of making your regular right, you're going to make a left. You can change the dynamics that easy. Also, you have to worry about what I'm going to say to you.
Oh, I know.
But
earmuffs, kids.
Seriously, you have to also go and test to your own satisfaction if the information that's coming through is something that is of pertinent information to you. Because of the fact there's a thing called self-fulfilling prophecy. Earlier today I said to John, I'm seeing a bald man with a goatee dancing with you to the rumba tonight. Now, here's the thing. It's gonna be a contest, baby. But here's the thing, guys. I put that in his head. That can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. If he goes and he has nothing, he does not test the message to the best ability he can. If he did not get an identifier from the other side that I try to provide, this could be BS. And you know what? That can cause more harm than good. He can go and all of a sudden, he can go and dance with Dave Schrader rather than me.
You know what?
I do let him lead.
It's funny because I don't know which bald man to my right or left I might be dancing the rumba with.
If we were in prison, my friends.
The night is young.
It is very young. All right.
I fold.
You are.
He doesn't have bail money, so we're safe.
Right. Okay. So I think it comes down to, if we could trap something, if we could hold it in a jar, it would be wonderful. And with Yoopers, I think that's the task. I think we're close on that one. We might be able to prove that one. I asked Dr. Drek if he thought he could trap one.
Greetings, oddballs. Dr. Drek here, and as usual, I am on the track to prove the existence of the mythical beast known as the Yooper. And this strategy I have this year is the best one of all. What I did was that I thought, I'll try to lure them south of the bridge, I'll pose as a troll, and I'll just hang around in the forest, and I'll put out bait that'll lure them down there, and then I'll catch pictures of them and maybe even catch a Yooper. So first I had to figure out the bait. Initially I was going to put a whole bunch of pasties on the ground, and but then, you know, I knew that the forest animals would just eat them up too quickly, so my best thought was, I know, I'll put out a bowl of Gilbert's vanilla ice cream right in the forest to lure the Yooper to it, and sure enough, I was poised with my camera, and one came out, and I snapped this picture of it before it ran away. It was very scared. It ran away, and I chased it, but I couldn't catch it. But it did leave some droppings, which I took a picture of, and here's the droppings that it left.
So once again, more positive proof that the Yooper does exist.
All right. We are going to crack this case, I swear. Tonight's the night. It's going to be big. All right. The paranormal's gotten so popular. There's so many television shows, there's blogs, there's websites, books, conferences, and so on. And the media is covering it more than ever. Dave, I know every Friday night on your show you do paranormal in the media, and I'm sure you could do more than one night if you had to. I mean, with all the news reports that just come out every single week. And it's something, you know, you set up these Google alerts. I know you do it, I do it too, on different words, and your inbox is full daily with coverage. I want to talk about how the media covers this topic. You know, do you think we ever get a fair shake? Let's start with you, Loren. Do you think the paranormal ever gets a fair shake when it hits mainstream media, you know, the networks, the cable news channels, things like that?
Well, I think if we don't count tonight's program as part of the media.
Definitely not mainstream.
No, I think that Bigfoot reports, ghost reports, they're always making fun of them. At the end of the report, it becomes really ridiculous and is very irritating to all of us that really are dedicated, people that follow, who really not believe, but accept the possibilities. That's the way I always look at it. News reporters see this as a joke.
What about down the line? You know, Dave, as a guy that watches the paranormal media, have you ever seen a report that you said, hey, that was actually, you know, pretty comprehensive, fair?
You know what's funny to me is, and Loren, you might be able to attest to this, there was a few years ago when the news broke that these hunters had a Bigfoot in an ice chest.
In Georgia.
Right, and they were taking it really seriously when it was obvious to the rest of the world this was just going to be a hoax. All the people in the paranormal field and in the cryptozoological field knew, and they treat that like crazy. But hikers out on a mountaintop taking photographs, and they capture this huge stalking thing. Whenever they show that news story, it's always compiled with you hear the background.
Well, the X-Files seem to be visiting the Montana mountains this evening as scouts saw this. Another Bigfoot, John.
Right? And it's like the ones that actually have validity, they scoff at, and then the media falls for the stupid stories all the time. But we get, I can tell you, when we started doing the show 8 years ago, I would put out these hits for supernatural news of Bigfoot, aliens, and ghosts, and I would get like blog hits. I wouldn't get news. Now, we're at the point where on Friday nights, we try to cram in as many stories as we can, but we turn away sometimes 40 to 50 news stories that have taken place in 1 week from around the world that have ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, other monster sightings. And there are a lot of cases that have come out where it's really impressive footage or evidence that they've captured, and you have, you know, it's not, hey, Billy Bob was out duck hunting and he done run into this Bigfoot. It's, you know, Sheriff Thompson was out in his patrol car and actually captured something on his dash cam, and they do this, but then that news doesn't go anywhere. And it just kind of peters out, which is really shocking. I mean, especially in the crypto world, because, you know, when you have cops or you have somebody that's a legitimate background capturing this stuff and nobody pays attention.
Well, during the 60s and 50s, we saw this with UFO phenomena. It started out little, and then it went all over, and then it died out. We've seen it a little bit with Bigfoot reports, where they're very local stories. They get the ones like the Georgia one, then they disappear, the media feels burned for a few years. So it stays local again. You know, Amityville became a big story, became a national story, and then it shrinks back. And so it's in cycles. But deep down, local news always wants to make fun. Occasionally we get good documentaries that really capture it and treat it fairly.
Christopher, I want to, you know, as someone who's called upon by the media, Amityville never goes away entirely. You know, it's something will trigger it, the story comes up again, reporters contact you. After talking to reporters for years now, do you ever feel like, man, do you feel like you're the butt of the joke, or do you feel like some people are giving you a fair shake in the media?
Well, you know, even when I do give certain media outlets an opportunity to cover the story with me, I've not gone forward with a book to put it all out in my own words. Sometimes what I find, even on like an ABC News segment that I did, they completely misquoted me. The news announcer says, and Christopher said there were no flies. Absolutely did not. You know, he asked me a question off camera in relation to flies, and were they as many as in the movie, and I said no, and then that drops it down to 0 flies. And so in an instant like that, you're not always getting that they're not hitting where it almost needs to come right out of the horse's mouth, you know, directly to the people, so.
Right, and John, I want to ask you something Dave mentioned. You know, sometimes there's a report that doesn't get debunked, that just kind of stands on its own, but then there's no follow-up, you know?
Yeah, it's funny because when you do that X-Files whistle, like it's the stock news clip for whenever they show a UFO or Bigfoot. And it is strange. I mean, like Loren was saying about people feeling burned, it's so funny. We all know that the media does this. They continually do this. It's to drive traffic or to literally make fun of one side of segment of our society. Specifically, I just wanted to say when Chris was talking, the thing I was thinking about was in 2001, I ran for the mayor of the city that I live in. And the election was the first Tuesday in November, of course, and Halloween is October 31st. And the newspapers wanted ghost stories, and they said, well, we don't want to interfere with your mayoral campaign, but can we still interview you for ghost stories? I was like, yeah, this is who I am. You know, you can do anything you want. So we did this huge interview, and Halloween comes and goes, and there's no news story. And then the 1st of November comes and goes, the 2nd. And then Election Day comes, and the headline in the newspaper in my hometown is, mayoral candidate blends ghosts and government. And then they ran the story. So I mean, that's what it's to drive sales. It's to drive newspaper sales, and if they feel threatened, if there is a story that they can't explain, that makes them look dumb. And so they won't follow up on it, you know, but if everybody's talking about it, they have to touch on it at least a little bit, but then it disappears off the map, like you said.
All right, Tim Shaw, what do you think? You know, it's creating a lot of noise, and on the one hand, I've had some discussions with folks here today. The paranormal's out of the closet. We get to talk about it now. It's not as weird to talk about as it once was just 10 years ago, certainly 20 and 30. Now that we're out of the closet, does this help? Do you think the media coverage, even the scoffing media coverage, does it help promote the discussion, or could we do without it?
You know, as much as I really have a problem with the way we're portrayed in the media, I do believe it helps, and I'm looking from a more of a spiritual foundation on this. It makes people become aware, at least gets dialogue going about perhaps there is something beyond life or beyond death, beyond whatever we think is our realities of this day. And I think it's really important for us to sit down and think about these things. It causes thoughts. It causes that brain matter to actually go and work. And that's what I really want. I don't care if you believe I'm bringing through your antilli. I don't care if you believe that these guys were running after Bigfoot. I don't care if you believe that Dave Schrader had hair at one time. But what I am asking you to do is to go and think. And that's what I like about what we're doing. Because people are just like, we've never had this before. You know, the first time I saw something on TV, one of the first major TV shows on the paranormal, I went, holy cow. Wow, they're finally doing something. Of course, later on down the line, I have other comments, but it's just the idea that so many people started to talk about it. I work with literally, in my day job, I push asphalt. I work with construction workers. And then all of a sudden, people started talking about it.
Right.
And I wasn't the freak.
Well, that's remains to be seen. Speaking of freaks, guys, we are right up out of time. It has been 30-odd minutes already. Let me just check in real quick with Dr. Direct, see if any luck with Yoopers on the scanner? Anything?
They're everywhere.
Jeff, you're surrounded. You better get back to the ship.
Oh my God. So he's got something there. All right, clearly I have to get out of here because we are surrounded by Yoopers. I'm getting out of here.
Oh, that was a close call. Thank you, Dr. Drek.
Oh, that's okay. Did you bring back any ice cream, eh?
Oh, a little.
No, a little bit.
All right, folks. Until next time, stay odd. Woo!